We are really very excited to introduce today our special guest, Sigrun, who will be sharing with us her tips and her strategies about how she could move and make her way through to become a millionaire from an unemployable person several years ago. Sigrun, we're happy to invite you to say a couple of words about yourself.
It's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me. I'm originally from Iceland. Now I live in Iceland and Switzerland. And I was a CEO for a decade. I have 4 master's degrees. So as you can imagine, it was not easy for me to find a job when I moved to Switzerland. And so ultimately, after trying 2 opportunities, I decided that I needed to start my own business. I started my business 2014. So now it's been just over 7 years. And I run a multiple 7-figure coaching business. I train women, mostly women, we have a few men too, to start and scale their own businesses. I would say the majority of my clients are female coaches in all kinds of different areas. You could even imagine a dog trainer being a coach, but as well as executive coaches and life coaches and business coaches and marketing coaches. But typically, I don't call it coaches. It's just people want to help other people make their lives better or grow their businesses. And I encourage women to think bigger and therefore helping several of them go to 7 figures all the way, but many just want to go to 6 figures.
Thank you very much, Sigrun.
Today we'll discuss personal brand. And first of all, we wanted to maybe put the frame what we are talking about, because there are a lot of definitions of personal brand, and I think the concept is evolving very quickly. And in 2021, we can talk about this new reality, and it's affected as well. First of all, with the new normal, we all went online. So there is no or very little face-to-face networking available now. And if you are not present online, if you don't know how to articulate yourself, how to position yourself, how to become visible, what to say and to whom, then you are really limit yourself in terms of either career growth or business development. So let's say this is the must skill we all need to have nowadays. Another trend, I think, which is shaping personal brand is going to authenticity versus PR. Some time ago, personal brand was really seen as a PR strategy. So we drive the ideal image of an expert, specialist, professional, and then try to convince people that we represent this image. It doesn't work anymore. What people value a lot is authenticity, really projecting you as you are. Maybe, of course, your positive and bright side, but still, which is you. Your values, your beliefs, your vision of life, and your messages, what you believe in, what you would like to share with others. So everything goes from within to outside. People are tired from marketing messages. They're tired from artificial, polished presentations of individuals. So they want to see human. And if you talk about human, yeah, Marina, I'll let you continue here.
Yes, and it's really a trend now, and we hear it from everywhere that people buy from people. And I can clearly see it also when we work with our customers and with people at our programs, because when people try to position themselves just using their company and using their corporate pages, you really don't see who's behind. But when people, entrepreneurs, experts make that leap and start presenting themselves and start sharing on social media their values, their positioning, what they stand for, it really makes a huge difference. And in addition, we see personal branding as a very strategic thing, because when you have a strategy, you can really get a lot of results. And mentioning this, I would like to ask a question to Sigrun. Sigrun, how do you see personal branding? What is it for you to have a strong personal brand?
I think these are 2 questions. What is a personal brand and what does it mean to you, to me? To me, a personal brand is when you have a brand stronger, like you have created a brand around your persona. And if you just think of two examples like Richard Branson and Elon Musk, unfortunately, I have two male examples. I should maybe next time have a woman in there. But think about these two personalities. They have a very strong brand. I would say almost everyone on the planet knows their name, but they own a lot of companies. And maybe you don't know the name of all their companies. And in the case of Elon Musk, Tesla has less followers. If you just go on Twitter, you're going to see less followers of Tesla and more followers of Elon Musk. He has built a very strong personal brand, and he could basically, build and sell companies, and people would still continue to follow the personal brand. I think what's been overlooked is that people, even if you're employed, even if you're not an owner of a business, you still need to build a personal brand. And I've seen this happen very successfully, especially if someone is a blogger for a company. They become like a name, and that's easy for them, of course, then to get the next job because they've built a personal brand while working for someone else. What does it mean for me? I knew always that I wanted to build a personal brand. I saw the strength of a personal brand already 7 years ago when I started. So I decided to name my company Sigrun. I have trademarked my name. My website is sigrun.com. So I obviously carefully thought about this before I started. I realized I wasn't so sure in the beginning what my business would do. I knew I was going into coaching. I knew I was a business coach. But what kind of business would it do? How would it look like 2 years from now, or even 10 years from now? Now I'm 7 years in, and I'm definitely not doing what I was doing in 2014 and 15. It's not maybe drastically different, but what if I had picked a name? If I had picked a name 7 years ago, my business would have been called Turning Your Passion to Profits, or the Passion Driver, or the Profit Passion Accelerator. I would have called my business something like that, and that would totally not feel aligned with what I do today. So a personal brand goes well beyond any company name. It survives ups and downs in the economy, and that's why I think that's the best bet you can make on your business, is to build a strong personal brand.
And when it comes to building a personal brand, we hear it a lot that it's actually a job that you need to do, and people start being overwhelmed when they think that they need to work on their personal brand, that they need to do so much stuff, that they need to be consistently and all the time posting on social media, that they need to be out there all the time. And for us with Elena, it was a bit of a challenge to help people understand that it's actually not that overwhelming. It's just about the strategy. And for that, we have created our own methodology that we called Uplift. And it's about following these exact steps in order to get the desired results, in order to become visible, and in order to grow your personal brand.
There are two big, let's say, steps in growing your brand. Is first to formulate it, and then to execute means really working on growing it. And we see a lot of people start to try to start from the middle, actually, from the communication piece, and they think they need to post something on social media, and the question is what to post. But if you don't do the previous work of formulation the brand, it's really difficult to answer those questions, what to post to be efficient and not to spend all time online. So formulate phase is really deep dive in your inner self, understand yourself. So what is important for you? What is your why? What is your mission, purpose? What is your vision? If you reach everything what you want to achieve, what would it be? So this internal work is very important, and it's connected with building self-awareness, knowing your strengths, knowing how to turn your weaknesses into advantage. And then once you're clear with this internal work, there is a phase of packaging it, let's say, for communication, because each person is the whole world. And we can't translate everything about us, even if it's interesting and it's our story. We need somehow to concise it to very clear and focused messages. And after we do that, then we can go to communicate. We would ask Sigrun, because we know that when you start your business in 2014, there was a key points like vision and your why, your passion. Could you share with us how you start actually building your brand?
Well, in the beginning, it was all about figuring out what I wanted to do. So there was a lot of, testing. I did some free offers to figure out what resonated with the people that were around me. Building the personal brand was maybe not in the forefront. I was obviously using my name, and, I had my website with my name, and I was, communicating as a personal brand, but I was not so much into defining what it was and what it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
My vision was more related to my personal goals. Like, I wanted to create a location independent business. I was very much looking for that flexibility and freedom that a so-called lifestyle business could provide me with. So that's why I was drawn to building an online business. I did not want to have an office. I had already run companies with 70 employees. Now I wanted to work from home, have that freedom and flexibility. So I was very much focusing on figuring out what would I offer, what kind of offers resonated, who was my ideal client. And I was working on all of that in the first instance. And I think that is important to figure out. I think that for me, the realizing that I was building a personal brand, maybe that realization came later. Even though if I was using my name from the very beginning, I wasn't so focused. So let's say, for instance, I always wear red. It's my signature color, my signature brand. It's a huge part of how people remember me. Oh, it's the woman who always wears red. And that did not happen in the first year. And I think we have to realize that some of these things around personal branding are organic. You start to do something and you see it resonates with your audience, and then you do more of it. So, but yes, I had a vision of first, creating a lifestyle business. I don't even call it a lifestyle business anymore. That word doesn't resonate with me anymore, because now I have a multiple 7-figure business. So it doesn't sound so much like a lifestyle business anymore. But that was the beginning. My true vision to accelerate gender equality, entrepreneurship, that got formulated a bit later, but my why was always clear. Since I've been 16 years old, I want to help women make their dreams come true. And I want to do that through the fact that they build their own business and that they think bigger. So I guess, because you're asking if this was all clear before I started my business, yes and no. To be really honest, I think in the back of my head, my why has always been there. That's unchanged. And I think everyone has a why, whether they realize it or not. But the formulated vision, how I really share in concrete sentences what I do and why I do it, that was not clear from day one. And that, came better as I got to know my ideal client better, as I knew what offers to present to them. And then, things like, wearing red, that came later. It's always been my favorite color. But in the middle of my first year, I started to run Facebook ads, and I was doing weekly webinars. And in my first Facebook ads, I was just using the colors of the topic that I was presenting. Let's say I was doing a webinar on Evernote, then the ad was green. There was an elephant, and there were all kinds of tools in the ad. Next week, I was doing MailChimp, and I was like, oh, do I put a monkey in my ad for MailChimp? And I realized this is creating a lot of extra work for me. This is like, am I going to switch my ads from blue to orange to yellow to green? That doesn't make any sense. So then I thought, I'll use red. I made my ad red, and I just put the name of the webinar on the top, and then there was a, like a profile picture, these circle ones with my face. And that was like, yes, I'm onto something, because people then started to tell me, I always know when it's your ad because it's red. And even today, I get screenshots. If someone has an ad similar to my ads, people screenshot it to me. Someone is copying your ads, Sigrun, or copying your brand. And if someone else wears red in a conference, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I'm wearing your color, Sigrun. Like it's taken on a life of its own that I could never have imagined. But sometimes it's like serendipity, like, how things come together.
Thank you, Sigrun, for sharing that. And I have another question for you. When we just start our business, we all know that it's not an easy path. And we need to really be very mindful, let's say, there about not giving up. So I am wondering, what was your motivation from the very beginning? You had your why, you had your purpose, but what was motivating you when maybe you had some, let's say, not very great moments and not very great days in your business?
I guess I have a very strong sense of perseverance. I don't give up. That's literally how I'm built. And I've been this my whole life. It takes a lot for me to give up. So I guess I will go through, fire and water and whatever you call it, and do a lot of things before I ever consider giving up. And I think there was never a point of me giving up. I think there was just a point where I realized I don't know the next step. I don't know how to, turn what I've created into a success. And I wasted possibly time and a lot of frustration trying to do everything on my own in the beginning, because I thought, hey, I've done an online course in how to build an online business, and I have 10 years experience as a CEO, and I have all my master's degrees. I must be able to figure this out. And then 9 months into my business, I had built an email list of 1,500 people, which was pretty good. I was doing my weekly webinars, but I didn't see enough revenue coming as a result of all this work. So I was working very hard, but not seeing really the monetary results. And I realized I needed some help. And I didn't need a lot of help. It was just like a little bit of help to get how you launch. And that was really the key for me. So I think it was not the moment of giving up, but the moment where you realize I cannot figure this out on my own. I need some help. I hired a special launch business coach from Australia for 6 weeks. And that was all I needed. She gave me all the recipes and templates and whatever you need to launch. And something clicked in my head. I'm like, that's it. This is how it works. I can do it now. And just after working with her for a few weeks, I was, off to the races, and I didn't even hire anyone to help me for the next 18 months until I started to join Masterminds. Because I do realize you cannot coach yourself. You always need a coach. And it's so good to surround yourself with other people, not just one person. I don't believe in, one-on-one coaching. I believe in being a part of a community of people that are either doing the same thing as you or even further, so that you're pulled forward to realize more.
Yeah, I can't agree more about the importance of environments, and environment can elevate you, or in the contrary, the wrong environment, it even can decrease your abilities. And we are big fans of mastermind concept as well. And I think another thing is happening in masterminds is this collective intelligence, because when you have this synergy of great minds thinking together, there's something else emerging, which individual one-by-one or one-on-one conversation, you wouldn't get there. So everybody builds on others' points of view, and then you have really very nice ideas or insights.
When we start executing our ideas and when we start executing our personal brand, it comes to choosing your touch points and it comes to implementing all those internal resources that you have in order to grow as an expert and as a personal brand. And I would like to ask Sigrun, for you, what were the crucial touch points that you chose for yourself in order to grow your business?
The points of contact with your audience.
Yes, your points of contact. We know that you have a wonderful podcast. For example, I'm listening to your podcast and it's really inspiring and you get there a lot of tips. So I suppose that this is one of your points of contact that you chose from the very beginning as your strategic approach to reach your target audience. Could you please tell us a bit more?
Yeah, I didn't start my podcast until in my 4th year of business. I think podcasting is a tricky beast, and you should not jump into it and start it too early. It's very crowded market today, and anyone who comes to me and says, "Sigrun, I want to start a podcast," and I'm like, "Have you tried some other means to grow your audience first?" Because podcasting is not easy to grow. And I think it's better if you try other avenues first. I really built up, as I just shared before, I hit on, started to try webinars. And I was 6 months into my business. My email list was maybe 300 people. And my revenue was like, $1,000, $2,000 a month. And I started weekly webinars. And that turned out to be my way of building an audience, connecting with my audience, letting them know what I know, building that trust. So when I finally actually launched the program in the fall, I had a loyal audience for 3 to 4 months who had been getting weekly 60-minute, pitch-free content from me. And then it came like the floodgates opened. I made $55,000 in 3 months. And that was something that, people have to think about. You have to build and nurture your audience. And once you have that, make an offer that resonates with them. I actually made the mistake of making the wrong offer. I was so fixed on creating an online course because I thought, online business, you have an online course. But of course you can build an online business with one-on-one coaching. But in my mind, I definitely wanted the freedom and flexibility of an online course. And the business coach, this Australian woman that I told you about before, said, "Sigrun, I think you should do a one-on-one coaching, like one-on-one packages first." And I'm like, no, I want an online course. So I didn't create it. Luckily, you never should create a course. Always sell it first, see if people buy it, and then you create it. And I created a sales page, no course created, and 600 people sign up for a webinar. I'm all excited about launching my first online course. And one person bought because I had not actually checked what people wanted from me. I refunded this person and I thought, oh my God, I've invested 5,000 into a business coach. I've spent, probably another 1,000 on webinar registration. So this was a big investment for someone who's not, making 1,000 for 2,000 a month. This was heading into disaster. But then we had the brilliant idea of emailing my audience and telling them my journey so far, because for other beginners, my journey was still impressive. I had been building my list consistently with weekly webinars, and I had been making some money, even if it wasn't so much. And I just shared it, honestly. And then I offered people to book free, we called it free business breakthrough sessions with me, 30 minutes, 90 people booked. I was busy for the next 3 weeks taking all these calls, and people were literally waiting to work with me. So I just hadn't asked them what they wanted to do, but they wanted all to work with me. So I was fully booked for the next 6 months. So that was definitely the tipping point that you asked about before. And weekly webinars were the first tool. Now, after 100 webinars, doing them almost weekly, sometimes I had 2 weeks in between because I was getting a little bit tired and didn't have so many new ideas because the topics were always different. This was never the same webinar. And then I realized I wanted to go back to blogging. I tried that for a little bit and I was like getting tired of that. And I realized, okay, I need to find a new way to communicate with my audience that doesn't exhaust me. The weekly webinars were exhausting in a way that you always have to get registration. You know it yourself, you have registration for this webinar, and imagine you're doing it weekly. It's quite a lot of work. The blogging was just exhausting me because when I sat down and wanted to write, even if I love writing, it just took me a lot of energy to find the time and focus to write. So I started to think seriously about a podcast. I was working with a business coach and he discouraged me from doing it. He said, yeah, you're always interviewing people. The funny thing is, this business coach today is launching her podcast now in 2021. And I am the first guest on her podcast. And she told me in 2016 not to launch a podcast. I decided not to listen to her. So even if you need a coach, sometimes you need to not listen to your coach if you disagree with them. So in 2017, August 2nd, I launched a podcast. I did 100 episodes in 100 days. And that's another thing to think about. I did weekly webinars. I did a more than most people are willing to do. I did 100 episodes in 100 days. That's also more than most people are willing to do. And I think these are, continuous tipping points. Like you can create those tipping points in your business by creating a massive amount of content in a limited time. So if 100 sounds too much to you, it could be doing 30 Facebook Lives, 30 days in a row. And if you enjoy doing it, then you extend it to 100. But you need to do something to stand out. And it's not by doing things necessarily like everyone else is doing them.
Wow, thank you very much for sharing that, Sigrun. And this really definitely says a lot about you and about your way to success. And I think that, yes, you said you were doing what not many people were willing to do and what they were not doing. Because when you think really about doing weekly webinars, then recording weekly interviews to post it on your podcast, and I guess you were also posting it on your YouTube channel, right? So it's a huge amount of work. Even the preparation part that nobody sees, it's really hours of work, hours of energy that you need to invest into that, thinking, creating, and you need to make it always at your best. So this is definitely a very important thing, I think, as a takeaway for all of our participants and for all people who are willing to build their brand, build the sustainable business, that yes, you need to work. And if you will not be working and working strategically, putting all you into what you are doing, perhaps it's also about your passion, but sometimes you do the things that you are not so passionate about, but you need to do that in order to get results. But also you need to have that passion and be willing to do all those things. So this is really amazing. And Sigrun, I would like to check with you about storytelling. How do you use it when you communicate with your audience? Because, for example, when I first saw you on social media, what I read, it was the first thing about your story of being at Tony Robbins' event, where you also met your husband, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
How do you use storytelling and how it helps you to attract your audience, maybe, and people who have the same values and same things and thoughts?
Well, actually today, this is a great day because today it's 13 years since I met my husband at a Tony Robbins seminar. So exactly today.
Oh, congratulations.
And I wrote a blog post about that experience as well. If people want to look it up, it's sigrun.com/love story. I started to write emails. I subscribed to a lot of newsletters when I was starting my business. And I think one of the best ways to learn good copy or storytelling is to subscribe to other people's emails and read them and see if they resonate with you. And in the beginning, my emails were probably quite fact-based. I was like, I'm not feeling this. I'm not feeling this is right for me. And I without anyone teaching me this or learning it from anywhere, I just kind of felt it was right to tell stories. Now, I've been telling stories since I was a child. I was writing stories as a small child. So I think I'm a natural storyteller, and maybe it comes more easily to me than some other people. But I realized the power of storytelling as I started to tell stories in my emails, and I started to get the feedback from my audience. Sigrun, I read all your emails, even if you're selling something and I don't want to buy. So that's what you want to get to, that your emails are so exciting that even if you're selling something, people do not unsubscribe if they are your ideal client. And you do that by, really telling personal stories. Everything is a story. Literally, just today, I can think of 2-3 stories, even if I'm sitting at home. And yes, I got one guy to come and measure some curtains for me, but there are some stories just already in my life happening today, which I can turn into a story for my audience. Now, you got to have some time to sit down. And that's probably when you get more busier. Like now, I actually have 2 people on my team that write for me stories, but they take often content that I've already shared in a video and write it up. So that saves me a lot of time, because writing good stories does require some time. We are wired to listen to stories, and it is important that you think of writing to one friend. This is why a lot of emails today don't have any images, don't have any branding, and they look like an email to your friend. So if you think of a good friend, that's how you should write your email. That's why I always say, hi, first name, because this is how I would write to a friend of mine. And then, at the end, there's like, bye, Sigrun or something, that's also I want to write to a friend. So you wouldn't skip those things suddenly because it's a newsletter. So if you're at any time in doubt how to speak to your audience, just think about you're writing to a friend. You can do the same thing on social media. Instead of, trying to sell something, I always find a story relating to what I'm selling. Here's the story. And then at the end, oh, by the way, I'm doing a webinar next week, or, doors are open to this program. You can always put in, that's the power of storytelling. People are just wired. If they are following you, they're following you because they like your stories.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is great tips, because even when we discuss with people who understand the importance of own story, they see it in a very high level, like you would maybe presented it in your TED talk, the story of the childhood and then the adults, so a very big thing. But what you are saying, that we can find stories in everyday life and actually attach it to something we want to convey as a message. So it shouldn't be necessarily like one lifetime event happen to us.
No, there are stories everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
We need to be able to translate them and connect them to our ideal clients so that they are relevant. Why am I telling a story? It has to be important to me, but also the person that should be reading the story.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We haven't discussed it much now, but defining the audience is one of the key elements of building the brand, because you can't talk to everybody, because when you talk to everybody, you're talking to nobody. So you really need to know what are those groups of people you are connecting with, and then build the stories and the communication based on their language, their interests, their problematics.
Yeah.
Yes, and if you tell the right story, which really relates to your target audience, to those groups of people who have, again, the same values, the same ideas about life, business, this is how you also get clients, through your stories.
Absolutely.
I was thinking that in building personal brand, there is this point of following that very often people who are following you, it's maybe you as an avatar for them. So it's you maybe 10 years or 5 years ago, because they're looking to go through this path and they see the person who had similar difficulties or challenges and successfully overcome them and achieve the objectives, and then it becomes more credible for people to follow because the person knows the solution. So they kind of modeling that type of behavior or the path.
Yeah. You become like a role model for them, definitely, and show them the path that if you could do that, And here's your story, how you were overcoming and getting to your point, so they then can also do the same.
Exactly.
Sigrun, and if we speak about what we call in our methodology taking up, it's about scaling your business and scaling your brand. What tips could you share?
Well, it was always important for me to scale. I came into the coaching world knowing that I wanted to scale my business and create a bit of a bigger business. I did not imagine to have a bigger business, as big as a business as I have today, but I still realized that, I wanted to create a one-to-many offer, not one-to-one, but one-to-few and one-to-many. I realized also that you kind of have to get to know your ideal client first. So that was my first assignment in my head, to really understand what does my ideal client need and how can I create offers that help them. So after doing one-on-one coaching for a while, the next step for me was to do group programs where I could help a few people. Group programs are typically not so scalable, but I actually run a group program today that has 100 people in it. But I have multiple coaches. So there are 6 coaches in the program. So the first thing is to think about, take whatever you're teaching one-on-one and how can you start to scale it? And for that, you need to have some sort of a steps or, method. Before you can start to scale, you have to look at what is working when you're working one-on-one. Because in a scalable program, people are going typically through the same process at the same time. So you need to have some steps. So I had been helping clients with launching. It became my favorite things to help my clients, basically scale and create online courses and launch them. So the first group program I offered, I was already 1.5 years into my business, was Launch with Passion. And it was an 8-week program. And then I would take them through the steps of launching. So everyone is learning the same thing at the same time. They had different things they wanted to launch. One wanted to launch a podcast, another one a book, another one a website, another one a course. Typically today, I only help people launch actually like programs and not website or books. But the principles are pretty much the same. So I started to develop my method for teaching this. And once you have taught a few people in a group, I had a group of 6, 2 groups of 6, in total 12, you start to think about, okay, do I want to teach this as an online course where you can potentially have, 100 people or 1,000 people at the same time going through the same method? And the biggest, I was already in my 4th year of business where I really came out with my Samba program, Sigrun's online MBA. And there we have now thousands of people who've gone through it. And you have to start to teach differently. When you teach one-on-one, you are synchronous like this, I say something, you say something, we can be on Zoom, and maybe we have emails happening in between. They are asynchronous. In a group setting, you can again have a mixture of synchronous and asynchronous, but typically in a group setting, you will opt for as much synchronous as you can. But when you go to bigger programs and want to scale more, the teaching methods change a bit. And you want to provide content in a way that is very easily digestible and they can watch whenever they want. And so my teaching changed from being, let's say, an hour-long webinar or half an hour-long training to be little 5-minute videos with really clear instructions. And then there's a Q&A call later that same week. So this happens pretty much organically, but it can happen faster once you know that this is the way you teach. You teach differently when you teach on a large scale. We currently have about 450 people in the course that I'm running. They're all creating their online courses, their first online course or second online course. And the videos have gotten, like the teaching instructions have gotten shorter and simpler. People do not need to know as much as we think. We're such an expert and we're always trying to I'll teach you everything I know, but that's not how it works. Like the your student also has to create their own learning. And it can be frustrating when people say, wow, why haven't you teach me everything you know? I'm like, I want you to make your own conclusions, because that has lasting effect. That's really how people learn and internalize things. So in terms of scaling, you can scale group coaching programs if you have more coaches. And then if you have, as I said, now I run a course with 450 students. I have 2 coaches in there and a couple of mentors, students as well. So, but I was teaching programs with, let's say 100, 150 students all on my own, when I realized if I wanted to scale more, I needed to get some help as well. But you can only do it once you have a method. I'm always the teacher in my programs, like all the videos are still with me, but that will also change in the future, because why does it need to be me? I don't know everything in the world. And that's where we have to let the ego go a bit.
Thank you very much for sharing it, Sigrun. And we are coming up to the end of our conversation. There are actually not that much time left. I would like to check with the participants, with the audience, what questions do you have to Sigrun? So she has been sharing so generously a lot of information, really amazing tips for those who are just starting building their personal brand, and for those who are already at some, let's say, next step, next stage, even if you are trying, for example, and thinking about launching programs. Again, what Sigrun shared with us now, you can easily implement it into your strategy when you work on your business and your brand.
Maybe one our parting question to Sigrun. So the world is changing dramatically lately, and this COVID crisis, I think, push everybody online, and the rule of the game evolving. If you would start to build your personal brands and the business now, what would be maybe the first steps or the strategy you would apply?
I would immediately find a way to make money. Yeah, people wait with that way too long. Find what people are willing to buy from you. A lot of people spend a lot of time on social media, creating content, whatever, blogging or video or podcast, and lots of posts. And then months later, they're still frustrated. Oh, why am I not selling anything? If you start with selling, you have your answer, you have your ideal client, then you create content to attract more people like that.
Mm-hmm. So start with the end in mind. What is your monetization strategy? And then build the rest to support this strategy.
Well, I think we should make it simpler. I wouldn't even call it monetization strategy. Sell just, even if it's 1 hour coaching or a coaching package of 6 sessions, just get selling, start to sell. You don't need to have figured out your whole, strategy for everything. Just get out there, talk to a lot of people, figure out what they want, and then start to sell. And then from there, you can start to devise your strategy in a better way.
Just selling your expertise directly, right?
And there is a question from the audience, from Jackie, how much online presence is ideal when starting out, and where is the best? I think it's a common question, like people are afraid to spend all their life being there online, and
it depends. Depends, I am going live every single day on some platform. I'm on Clubhouse, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. This is just a part of running the business. There is no stress around this. This is just like going to the office. This is like drinking water. It's maybe stressful when you're not doing it. But once it becomes a part of running the business, it's no stress around it. I'm not stressed at all. It's just like doing a daily check-in with my executive assistant that I do something live. So I think first and foremost is to understand how you're going to make money. Make the sales first and then create. I've never created a single thing in my business before I sold it first. And luckily, because otherwise I would have created this course in my first year of business where 1 person bought. That would be a complete waste of time. So create, sell first and then create. Once you know who is willing to buy from you and you like working with this person, then you can figure out, where does this person hang out? We have now all these amazing new platforms like TikTok and Clubhouse. Is the person hanging out there? Maybe. It is not just for young people. Clubhouse, definitely not. Find out where your ideal client is hanging out, and then you create your content strategy around that. It's not about what is popular, what's best right now. Even if I like Instagram, it might not be what is right for you. So I would never recommend one specific platform. LinkedIn is also very popular right now. It's like the old Facebook. You can still get some organic reach. It's harder since Gary Vaynerchuk started to recommend it, but it's still possible. Clubhouse, people have been adding 1,000 and 2,000 followers in weeks. It's going so fast. Now, you need to any platform you decide on, you need to spend some time on it. Nothing happens, like you're not going to create something from nothing unless you do something for it.
Absolutely. Yes. There are some questions and I see from Mia, is it okay if those on freelancing stage still do scaling right away? Creating course, group program.
Freelancing, I would imagine that it's like selling your time for money, doing some work for hours for someone.
Yeah, you can start to scale right away, but if you don't have the community, it's going to be hard. So I have a process that I take my clients through and I get them up and going. So currently, as I said, there's 450 students. They're creating their first or next online course. And we give them 4 weeks to get clear on what their course should be about. Now they're creating their course. And then afterwards, depending on how many people they have followers, we have different strategies. If you have less than 100, you cannot sell a course because only 3% buy. So scaling strategies need to be coupled with followers, So in order to get more followers, you need to offer something for free, like I did, weekly webinars, or in this case, a free online course or a webinar like we're doing here now. Like, you need to build some followers. You can absolutely scale in your first year in business, no problem. You can offer courses and other programs, but don't try to offer, let's say, an online course and you have 50 people on your email list. 3% of 50 is 1.5 person, and 1.5 person is not an online course. Then it's better to offer one-on-one coaching. So yes, you can scale quickly, but it's coupled with a numbers game.
We wanted to thank you, Sigrun, to join us and generously share your experience. And I think it was very valuable.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you very much for being so honest and giving really great tips.
Thank you.
Because when you have that practical experience that you can share, this is really priceless for people who are just stepping into their first experience of building their brand and growing their business.